Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We continue on our topic, which is forensic investigations and NDT. So, the scope of forensic C&S engineering. C is civil and S is structure. Civil and structure engineering. Firstly, the scope includes structures, buildings, bridge, or we have geotechnical works, underground works, or we have highway and transportations, waterways, ports, coastal and also offshore facilities. And then followed by culverts and pipeline system, air transportations, environmental facilities as well as hydraulics, irrigations and drainage. Competency of forensic C&S under the scope of engineer and investigator. Familiarity with building codes, specifications and industry standards. And then engineer must understand soft structural and soil behavior to know how structure behave and why they fail or collapse. And then both engineer and investigator should able to collect as well as analyze the data, develop failure hypothesis, and reach to correct the conclusion regarding the cause of the failure. Problems occur due to the collapse of the structure. And then both parties must having some knowledge of legal procedures, good oral and written communication skills, and lastly must be high in ethical standards. Okay, we have several investigation process. Firstly is engagement and definitions of forensic investigations, and then we have the objective of the investigations, collection of background informations, and then followed by documentation. Then we need to go to the site visit as a preliminary, formations of investigation plan and project team, and then formulate initial problem statement or initial hypothesis, and then of course we might have failure hypothesis, so we need the comprehensive document study for the investigation, and then we need to have site investigation and field testing, followed by sample collection, structural analysis, design check and also laboratory testing, revisions of failure hypothesis, go back to the hypothesis that made earlier, and then we need to revise of course the investigative plan, who should take the responsibilities, and then we need to have the final conclusion and also final report. Identify investigative team. So possible discipline for structural failure investigation is structural engineer, geotechnicals, concrete specialists when the concrete is collapsed, or we need to have material experts on the maybe low cost materials used or low strength materials to understand on the properties of the materials, and then involve architects, surveyors, photographer to have better proof for the failure structure, and then test specialists, instrumentation specialists, and lastly is contract law specialists. Okay, for the site visit, We need to schedule the site visit as soon as possible after the incidents, especially when collapse is involved. We need to plan carefully. We need to have document findings as well, and also preserve perishable evidence, collapse configuration, features of fractured steel surface, test tube or cylinder. And lastly, for the site visit, fail and unfail components, we need to determine, of course. Okay, for the equipment, we need to have the measuring devices, in situ testing equipment, photographic equipment, complete camera, clothing, suitable clothing, data recording equipment, for sampling, and also small handy tools for the investigation. And then collections of sample is where the site should be carefully photographed and sketched. Sampling techniques should conform to specified standard or codes. Samples should be marked, referenced, catalogued, and stored according to the procedure. You need to label all the samples taken with the date and time also. And then for the documenting visual examinations, we need to have established referencing system or compass direction coordinate system to really determine the locations of the collapse or failure. Make liberal use of notes and sketches, as well as the photograph, document photos, arrow on plan of structure where the collapse occur. Maybe for the third floor, second floor, really to make an arrow for that. Careful description in notes. And lastly, camera with number in print is very helpful. And then for the eyewitness account, passerby eyewitness may provide information on the sequence of the events. We need to estimate when and where what time the collapse happened. Project personnel, project managers, designers, and also foreman is involved in the eyewitness account. We must interview the workers or other acknowledgeable structure. Seek photos or video taken earlier of the structure, maybe the before incident pictures. What information is actually need to be gathered from the eyewitness is the status of construction at time of failure, the mode and sequence of failure, possible triggering events. This one is possible causes, possible factor that cause the collapse or failure. Activity underway at the time of collapse. Unusual loading on structure. Maybe we have unusual loading of structure. For example, for the bridge, maybe we have too many vehicles pass by. Or maybe we have environmental factors such as movement of soil, raining, or others. The capacity of certain components or entire structure at the time of failure. And then physical tests. Physical tests include mapping of cracks and other defects. You can draw on the structure, or maybe you might sketch on the paper. Partially destructive tests for concrete strength. Penetration resistant with a probe. Pull out, pull off, or internal fracture. Or maybe we have non-destructive tests using rebound hammer for variability of materials. Wave method for thickness and variability. And lastly, radioactive methods. Okay, for laboratory analysis, we have material testings and also the component testing. Materials testing include concrete samples, petrography analysis, chemical reactivity, air content, cement content of the slab or column. Maybe it's a wrong percentage of cement ratio. Strength, chloride test, existence of corrosion if it is steel, freeze door test. And then for component testing, you have load test, which is connections, structural components, or the whole structure. Okay, this is some of the document search. We have construction document, include plan and specification, contractual agreements on the structure, and also the progress report of the renovations maybe. Or we have shop drawing and erections or as-built drawings, and also bearing logs. Okay, then we have the test report, foundation report, concrete materials test report or maybe kit test, steel test report, post-tensioning report, or maybe we can have manufacturer certificate on the Poland cement, structural steel and reinforcing steel, inspection report. Project correspondence include contractor, engineer, architect and other consultants. Engineer design involve calculations, applicable building codes and also the weather codes. Develop and test hypotheses, examinations of photo, design calculations and other evidence, perform additional calculations or design check, conduct laboratory tests, which I mentioned earlier, conduct tests on the structure. Okay, prepare conclusions include summary reports, state probable causes, as many as probable causes, provide support for the conclusions, provide evidence. Okay, conclusions on this topic. Forensics engineering is the applications of engineering science to investigate the investigations of failure or collapse or other performance problems in construction. A wide and multidisciplinary field because it requires engineering experts and knowledge of legal procedures. Forensic engineering also deals with investigations and reconstruction of failure in buildings, bridge, facilities, vehicles, and other engineered systems. Engineers and also managers need to have a helicopter view of the process, techniques, outcome reporting, and legal aspect of forensic engineering investigation. Okay, what is non-destructive test? We go through another topic, subtopic. Okay, non-destructive test of concrete is a method to obtain the compressive strength and other properties of concrete from the existing structures. This test which actually provide immediate results and actual strength and properties of concrete structure. In the non-destructive method, without loading the specimen to failure, we can measure strength of the concrete. Different methods of NDT on concrete is penetration method, rebound hammer method, pull-out test method, ultrasonic pulse velocity method, as well as radioactive method.